Since the last season of Made for This, a lot of really exciting and important things have happened in Ashley's career. And it got me thinking about milestones and how impactful they can be for a musician. A lot of times, the milestones that a musician reaches in their career are things they've been dreaming about since the onset of their interest in music. So I sat down with Ashley and the guys in the band to talk not only about the pivotal moments in the last year, but also some of the standout moments throughout our journey, from a budding interest in playing an instrument to where we are now.
Most days you're stuck in a truck, one big break from blowing up. One of these days you're gonna get a bus and let somebody else drive. It's calling home for a telephone goodnight kiss. You gotta be made for this, made for this. You gotta be made for this.
So we're talking about milestones.
Yes, I would say the biggest, first of all, your Opry debut is one of the biggest things that ever happens to you.
The earliest one would be as a professional musician playing the Opry for the first time. I did that in 2015 with an artist, and it was very wild. My parents were there and grew up listening to it, and that was a major one for sure.
Playing the Opry was one of those things where it's like, you know, I've dreamed about playing as soon as I figured out it existed.
For us as a band, moving from a van to a bus was huge.
The first time we went from a van to a bus, like that's a huge milestone, you know, because that means you're showing up to a show rested instead of, you know, sharing driving duties on the van all night the night before.
The first tour, real week and a half tour that I did with people of like-minded goals and stuff. And we actually did the thing, got the van, booked the shows, and ate peanut butter honey sandwiches for a week and slept in the van. But we did it. You know, it was that was one of the biggest ones for me, because it was I can chase this and make it happen, like a reality, you know.
I think the first time I played the Ryman was another big one, just because of the history in the room, and I again had gone to see shows there with my family and everything else.
Yeah.
I think that was 2018. It was in a transitional period when I was going from one gig to Ashley, and that was kind of a wild weekend because I did the Ryman, and then the next day flew to Red Rocks and met you guys there, and then we played Red Rocks the first time, which was 2 in a row. It's whoa.
Playing Houston Rodeo the first time when we were opening for George Strait, that was huge. This year we headlined Houston Rodeo. Playing at Billy Bob's for radio shows for guitar pulls is great. This year we headlined Billy Bob's, and it was asses to elbows in there. That's a huge milestone.
Playing the award shows, you're the first late night TV spot you get to play. The first time you get to hear yourself on the radio. You know, I was in Opry Mills Mall 2 days ago, and we were walking around and Hang In There Girls playing on the speakers. Like that's such a cool thing. You know, I'm hearing myself in public. You know, that's those things, you know, it seems like such a small thing from the outside, but as a kid, to imagine walking around a mall and hearing yourself on the speakers, you know, that's just that's something that's really cool. You get to be those people. You're the people on the radio now, the people on TV now.
Our first time playing late night, and our very first late night was Seth Meyers. Our second late night was Jimmy Kimmel, and every time you got one of those for the first time is another huge milestone. You're starting to feel like it matters to a world outside of just you and your band. Those are all fantastic milestones, and they are all self-raising bars.
Getting the call from Chris and Ashley if I was interested in this was a huge deal. That was really big to me. Just knowing that anybody was listening to me playing bass was cool.
Getting this gig is a big milestone.
us being able to bring Wes Dorothy on board. And I feel like when we say we got a utility player, that sounds like we maybe bought a tool. This is an individual who is a songwriter, who is a gifted vocalist, who can play nearly any instrument, and what he doesn't play can figure it out in an afternoon. That was a milestone. Us earning Courtney, our lighting director, who we had worked with 3 years prior and said, I want to work with her when it's the time. That was a milestone. It's sometimes I don't think about counting people as milestones, but bringing additional band and crew on board and us being able to afford it and what that does to our show, that makes that season of show its own milestone and gives us the next thing to reach for, because now we're getting Courtney her own equipment and the things get to be more ours, more us, more fingerprints of us on everything. And when we do that, we usually like the result.
Moving to Nashville was huge for me because I'd been married for 3 years, I think, 4 years, and I had a 2-year-old and a 10-day-old baby, and I was working a job in West Texas and gigging bands down there, and then I caught my wife on a good day, and she said, yeah, let's move to Nashville. And
I'd say another huge one that I've always dreamed of was playing on a major label record. So the first one that we did, that I was a part of with Ashley, the Never Will record, was a huge, huge milestone for me.
The most important thing that can ever happen to you ever is becoming a member of the Grand Ole Opry. This is the only award that I've got that no one else can touch. And that night I let Terry Clark hold it. She handed it to me initially. I let my mother hold it. No one else is allowed to touch this. Also a bathrobe that came along with this that night that says Grand Ole Opry on it. Nobody touches that. Everything else I usually let people hold, take pictures with, kiss them. Biggest milestone ever is becoming a brick in the building blocks of country music. So much so that you put your brass plate on the wall. Biggest milestone that can happen. Then right after that is the Grammys. This one I wiped fingerprints off of, but my sister kissed the back of the bell of the gramophone. So I left that on there. As a matter of fact, anyone who I have put this in their hands, if they kiss it, I'm leaving that. You guys can just kiss each other and we'll just let it be weird. Carly and I earned our first Grammy. This is the biggest musical thing that can happen. And it's right up there with being a member of the Grand Ole Opry. The main difference being you will have years where you win Grammys and years where you don't win Grammys. This may be your only Grammy ever. But even after you're dead and gone and in the ground, before your name. So right now it says, Grammy Award-winning songwriter, Grammy Award-winning country artist. Even after I'm gone, the obituary will read, Grand Ole Opry member, Ashley McBryde. That is dope. I have some books about it if you'd like to learn some things.
There are so many things along the way that we give so much weight to in our hearts and in our minds. Achievements that we think will define us as the thing that we want to be. For me, one of the earliest was getting a real full-size drum kit. I started with just a snare and a cymbal when I was 4, and then when I was 6, my parents upgraded me to this sort of toy drum kit. And then when I was 8, they upgraded me to a junior, 3/4 size kit. And all those years, I was just dreaming about the day that I got a real full-size drum kit. I felt like that's what would make me a real drummer. As it turns out, it's whatever that desire is within me that makes me a real drummer, but it was such a clear milestone that I had set for myself. I've realized recently, though, there are times that in the moment don't really register as being impactful, but later on gain importance in our timeline. As crazy as it sounds, one of those milestones for me was playing the Grand Ole Opry. A lot of people think that it's crazy to not have dreamed about that, but I didn't really grow up playing country music. I didn't grow up listening to country music. I had heard of the Opry, of course, and I knew it was a big deal, but I always thought I was going to be in a rock band or a pop band, so it was never really on my radar. Now, of course, it's an incredibly special milestone, and to be a part of that, and every time we go play is just amazing, and it means so much to me. So I wondered, what are some of those sort of unexpected milestones for the others?
I realized that I've hit a lot more milestones than I was aware of at the time, because like as soon as I get a gig, I'm constantly trying to make sure I still have it next week or can get another one, because I want to make sure I can just be a bass player, and for that to be a possibility and something that can happen is just really silly to me. And so getting to do it every day is like I'm waking up to milestones, you know.
The first show that we played in the Faster Horses Festival in Michigan, where like there's so many people, they have to have like time delayed PAs set out like throughout the crowd so everyone can hear, and you couldn't see it, just like went over the horizon. That's something I never thought would ever happen, and it was, I didn't think it was going to happen that day until we walked on stage. I was like, what? So that would be one for sure.
It just dawned on me not too long ago that like we sell out almost every show now, and they're much bigger venues than we used to be playing. And it's like it just kind of becomes such an ordinary thing after a while that you forget that like that's really dope. Sometimes you don't realize it until you step back and look at it as a whole. Where it's like, man, we really did some cool things, and it sort of just became part of the job, you know, part of the daily thing. But I think we should celebrate that stuff more.
The first time my daughters came on the road with me when I was I was playing with an artist that was on a bus, and I think they were like, I think my girls were probably like 7 and 5. And I still have a picture of them like sitting, they had their headphones on, they were sitting back behind my bass cabinet on stage, because we didn't have a babysitter or anything with this, so they were with me on stage. And I was just wanting to show them a good time and spend time with them for those couple days. But like looking back at those photos, I mean, they totally didn't care, but to me that's a huge milestone to me. That's the whole reason I moved to Nashville and wanted to play this kind of music with people like you and Ashley and everyone. It's because like I can have my family, and I can make a living, and I can juggle all of it, like the country music in Nashville and everything really affords that, and that's not lost on me, and it that has turned into a much bigger deal for me over the years than.
I reached the point where I was so sick of working a dead-end job in a grocery store and stuff that I was to the point of I'm quitting on this day, and it doesn't matter what happens. And that day, very thankfully, you gave me a call. I'm like, hey, you should come try out with this gig. And but in my head, I reached that point of like, it's now or never. Like, I'm done giving it 80% and not 110%, you know. But I'm glad I reached that point, because I now realize how lucky and, you know, grateful is a word that kind of gets thrown around a lot, but really practicing gratitude to be able to do this and to, you know, not take it for granted because of all those days in the grocery store being like, this sucks.
Feeling gratitude was a theme throughout my conversations with everyone. And I think that speaks partly to the quality of people we have in this camp, but I think it also speaks to just how amazing realizing a dream is. It's so hard to ignore the excitement and the emotional ecstasy that your inner child feels as they're living something they've spent years only imagining. And we're so grateful to have the opportunity to give back to those hardworking younger versions of ourselves with such joy and say, you did it. What's interesting is that often when you've spent so much time playing these events and circumstances over and over in your head, you have every single detail planned out, sometimes down to the dialogue, long before you're ever living it. But as we all know, life rarely ever goes as you imagine it will.
I think that the feeling was what I had dreamt of. And then once I got into like when you're really in it, then you're just kind of doing your work again and you're not really focused on like, woo.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the feeling was what I was dreaming of.
I thought because remember on our Grand Ole Opry debut, I was a wreck. They had to redo my makeup like 5 times that day. I was doing really good the night I was actually inducted. And I was like, I'm going to be very present and I'm going to keep it together. And I figured that I wouldn't be able to at all. That I would just be a disaster and sitting in the circle and being like, I don't know why such amazing things keep happening. But I was able to stay present, even though it's a little blurry because there was so much love. Like at one point, Winona Judd walks in my dressing room and I was like, what are you doing here? And she's like, I have to be here. I love you. And I'm like, oh my God, what do I do with all this love? But I was still able to be really present and listen to the things that Terry said as she inducted me. And then when she handed me this, I didn't know what to do. So I guess I was suddenly in like a boxing film where I just like stuck it in the air and was like, yes! And reminding myself to stand in that moment. So different than I expected in that, I was able to keep my poop in a group, keep my shit together. Winning a Grammy was nothing like I thought it would be. I thought I would be like watching and it's that moment and it's our category and I'm shaking and I'm listening, and it wasn't. I was sitting with my sister and I knew it was our category, but then I was like, I don't know how many people are in the category. Should you hold my handbag if I needed to get up? Plus I was in a garment that was like, I've never had as much faith in anything as I had to have in Blakely Collier's work and in that garment. And while they're reading the names, and I don't remember if they said our names first or if they said the name of the song first, but I know I missed that part until I heard our names. And I looked at my sister and she goes, you just won. And I went, oh shit. And I was like, I don't know what to do. So I stood up and then I just took off hard left. And then it's such a long walk. I had no idea it's such a long walk during the daytime portion of the Grammys. And then I thought I should run, which is not what you should do in that situation. So it was much more like, I was way less prepared even after 6 nominations and each time going, I could win. I mean, you're in the category, you could win. No matter how prepared you are for the milestones, you're not as prepared as you think you are.
I think it was better. Your mind kind of goes to grandiose places, I guess, and you kind of like, and you envision how everything is going to go every step of the way. But if it went how you were thinking in your mind, it'd be boring, right? It's like the unexpected things and the surprising things that still make life interesting and exciting. So I think it wasn't what I expected, but in the best possible way.
What are some milestones that you have yet to reach that you're looking forward to and still dreaming about?
Still dreaming about. We've played the Orpheum in Memphis, which is a theater that you and I both grew up going to shows at, and we've played there. But I've not sold it out asses to elbows. I will sell it out asses to elbows. Headlining Red Rocks. Red Rocks holds almost 10,000. Been there with Little Big Town. We're there with Jerks. And it's always a really nice, it always feels like a rite of passage anytime you're at Red Rocks. It's such a spiritual place. Just being there feels like a rite of passage. Headlining Red Rocks, huge deal. And I don't know how many people at Royal Albert Hall holds in England, but that is on my list. Also getting a star coach so I can have like a bedroom instead of just like command hooks on the wall where I can hang a sweaty bra. But
I would love for a record that I'm a part of to win a Grammy and to win some of the like album of the year things in country music. I think that would, I hope it's with Ashley, because I think that's very possible. And then B, like it would just be so crazy to be a part of something that's recognized in that way.
I'd love to be on an album that won Album of the Year. I would love to have played and sang on the #1 single in country music. You know? I look forward to the day we headline Red Rocks. We get a truck this fall. We get a semi, so we can like bring bicycles on the road. Again, small thing, but we get to celebrate that because, like, shit, man, not that long ago we were in a van, and now we're talking about a truck. There's always milestones, and if there's not a milestone we're looking forward to, I'm not sure what we're doing. We got to get better. We got to do better. We got to you know, that's the goal. And I think when you stop looking forward to something, you're not interested in it anymore.
Being a musician is a constant chase. You're always chasing the next level of skill, the next song you'll write, the next show, the next big opportunity. But being made for this life means never getting tired of that chase. We keep dreaming, bigger and bigger, and we stick around, even when it feels like maybe we're going nowhere. Because as long as you don't stop, nowhere is really just a milestone along the way to somewhere.